You heard that before? Yes? But it wasn't. I'll tell you what happened. I was prepared. I did what I was supposed to do. Everything was in order. Food. You never saw such food. The banquet tables sagged under the weight of the clay platters of dates, figs, pomegranates, plump olives, succulent lamb, fragrant cheeses, delicate honey cakes. You know the kind with the little raisins, though? My favorite. Wine flowed like water from a fountain. Music and laughter, families dancing across the courtyard. The feast went on for a week. Our village of Cana in Galilee had never seen such a wedding celebration before or since. People will be talking about this wedding for generations to come. Believe you me. Now, understand, this was not a wild party. It was a time of joy, thanksgiving, tradition, a wedding blessing. The mood dampened a little when a group of desert dwellers joined us. Would these religious men approve of the festivities? But before you knew it, things were back to full swing. It was a little odd to see some of these men in their rough coats and goat skins dancing arm in arm with town folk in their fine silk and embroidered linen garments. But no one seemed to mind. There was love and life in the air. L'chaim! The party actually started 4 days earlier, when the bridegroom and his men made a grand procession through our streets of Cana by torchlight to fetch the bride's family. Then everyone rushed here to the groom's house for a feast worthy of royalty. We had been preparing for weeks. The groom's mother, my mistress, who I work for and serve, had me at market early each morning, selecting the finest produce, the choicest cut of lamb, the plumpest chickens. There had been heavy rains this past month. Everything was green and flourishing. The fresh scent of juniper blossoms mingled with the rich scent of savory stews and warm baked bread. Everything was going according to plan. I dutifully followed my mistress as she walked among the guests, ready to respond to her commands to replenish the bowls of fruit or circulate trays of roast meat. Then it happened. A crisis threatened our celebration. It wasn't my fault. We ran out of wine. No, yes. Only the wine, you say. Hardly an emergency, you say. Just a little embarrassment, you say. But wine was not only the drink of choice. It was a symbol of honor and life. From my early days of serving in the house, I knew that the two things you did to welcome a guest was to wash their feet in cool water and to offer them wine. Well, no wine to serve was a slap in the face of these honored guests and would cast a cloud over what was a wonderful celebration. I don't think others realized what was happening. There were still some jugs of wine being circulated by the servants. But when they returned to the kitchen to be refilled, the error would be exposed. I could see the color drain from the face of my mistress as she realized the miscalculation. Distraught, she rushed over to her close friend, Mary of Nazarene. Mary listened, nodded, whispered something to my mistress, and then looking around the crowd, caught the attention of one of the desert dwellers. Mary was signaling her oldest son, Yeshua, Jesus. I had not noticed that he had entered with the desert dwellers, but now it made sense. These desert dwellers were in fact Jesus' followers, his disciples who I'd also heard about. When Mary caught his attention, Jesus left the dancing and came over, panting and laughing, high-stepping as he came. His mother said to him, "They have no more wine." Jesus replied, "Dear woman, why are you involving me? My time has not yet come." Time? Time for what? What was Jesus talking about? Was he waiting for a special dance? Maybe he was waiting for the right moment to start preaching his new religion. We were facing a crisis. It wasn't my fault. But obviously, Jesus had other things on his mind. I don't know why he decided to help, but he did. Maybe it was because it was his disciples who were thirsty and drunk all the wine.
Likely.
Jesus' mother said to me, "Do whatever he tells you." Jesus strode off towards our cellars, walking nimbly through the crowd. I had to run to keep up. Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by us Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons, about 100 liters. Jesus said to me, "Fill the jars with water." So I summoned other servants and we filled them to the brim. Then Jesus said, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." So I drew some out and took it to the master of the banquet, who tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He didn't realize where it had come from, but I and the other servants who drew the water knew. Water went in. Wine came out. And not just any wine, but the finest vintage, fragrant and full, able to satisfy any thirst. The master of the banquet called the bridegroom aside and said, "Most people serve the choice wine first. And then the cheap wine, after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now. Mazel tov!" The master of the banquet and the bridegroom went back to the dancing. My mistress and Jesus' mother rejoiced. Us servants just stood there speechless. Jesus smiled. The feast continued. No one knew. This, the first of his miraculous signs, Jesus performed right here in Cana of Galilee. He thus revealed his glory, the first glimpse of his glory. And his disciples put their faith in him. That day, at that wedding, all the power of the universe filled a few ordinary stone jars and changed water into wine. It wasn't my fault. But I'll tell you this. I followed Jesus into the cellars that day. And do you know? I still follow him today. The Cana crisis. Thank you.
First day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a power pregnancy. Oh, perfect. All right, here we go. On the second day of Christmas, my true love gave to me two sacraments and a on the third day of Christmas, my true love gave to me witty spoken words, two sacraments, and on the fourth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me four pastoral phone calls, three witty spoken words, two sacraments, and on the fifth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 5 KJV. Yeah. All right. 4 sacraments and awesome. On the 6th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 6 texting teens, 5 KJVs, 4 hospital phones, 2 sacraments, on the 7th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 7 Christmas sermons, 5 KJVs, 4 pastoral 2 sacraments,
I think because of table number 1, we can be assured we're never going to sing that song. All right, well, we're up for dessert. Just before we have dessert, I see most of the ladies that have worked in the kitchen. Joaquin and Anna, are you able to grab Shannon and Darcy? Let's just give them a hand and say thank you. All right, we're going to go and grab dessert, and then we're going to hear from John again soon. So we're going to start with table number 1. You guys go ahead, and we'll just kind of work our way backwards.
I often try and make note of where kind of the idea has come from, whether it's from a sermon that I got to be part of and listen to, or maybe a line from a song or something. And I was in an airport. I think it was back in 2007, coming back from Ontario to Victoria. And I was at that time reading one of Philip Yancey's books. And in it, he had made reference to John chapter 2, the wedding in Cana. And so I just started writing this idea of being able to share what I've called the Cana crisis, but telling us about the story and the wedding in Cana. So this next piece that I'm going to share actually came from, again, I was in Ontario performing at a church and had finished a performance, and afterwards somebody came up to me and said, that they'd just come across a story that they thought I might like to do something with. And it was a story written by Ralph Wilson, who is a pastor in the States. And so I contacted him and asked his permission to be able to share his story. And so that's what this one is. It's called Joseph's Letter Home. And from it, I started sharing it just as a standalone story, which is what I'll be sharing with you next. But from that, I used it as one of the pieces of what developed into telling the whole Christmas story from the perspective of 5 different characters. So this is just one of the 5 characters that's developed into a 40-minute Christmas presentation that I've got a chance to share at some of your churches. But this, anyway, is the last main character that we meet. And this is entitled Joseph's Letter Home. Dear Mom, there's lots of things I couldn't tell you about before. You wouldn't have believed me. But maybe I can tell you now. You know, Mom, I always loved Mary. Her and her brothers used to play in our street. Our families got together for meals. But the hardest day of my life happened not that long ago. Do you remember that, Mom? The trouble started after we were betrothed, and we signed the marriage agreement at our engagement. Then Mary left abruptly to visit her old cousin Elizabeth in Judea. She was gone for 3 months. When she got back, people started wondering out loud if she were pregnant. It was cloudy the day I finally confronted her with the gossip. Mary, are you going to have a baby? Her clear brown eyes met mine. She nodded. Who? Mom, Mary and I never acted improperly, even after we were engaged. There's no way I can explain it to you, Joseph. But I want you to know that I've never cared for anyone but you. Then she took my hands in hers and kissed each of them as if it was the last time she'd ever do that again, and turned towards home. I was dying inside. The rest of the day I stumbled through my work. It's a wonder I didn't hurt myself in my workshop. I was angry, and I pounded out my frustrations on the door frames I was making. My thoughts whirled so fast, I could hardly keep my mind on what I was doing. I couldn't breathe. At last, I decided just to end the marriage contract with a quiet divorce. Mom, I loved her too much to make a public disgrace. I couldn't talk to you or anyone else for that matter. I went to bed early and tried to sleep, but her words kept coming to me over and over again. I've never cared for anyone but you. I've never cared. How I wished I could believe her. I don't know when I fell asleep, but Mom, I had a dream from God. An angel of the Lord appeared to me. His words pulsated through my mind so intensely, I can remember them as if they were yesterday. Joseph, son of David, do not fear to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you will give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. That was it, Mom. That was the answer. I couldn't believe my ears. For a long moment, the angel gripped my shoulders, and his gaze pierced deep within me. As he turned to go, I think I saw a smile on his shining face. No sleep after that. I tossed and turned for a while, and then got up quietly so as not to wake you. I must have walked for miles beneath the moonless sky. The stars pricked the blackness like 1,000 tiny pinpoints. A warm breeze blew in my face. I sang to the Lord. Mm-hmm. Yes, me singing, Mom, if you can imagine that. I told him that I'd take Mary and care for her. I told him I'd look after her and the child, no matter what anyone said. I got back home just as the sun kissed the hilltops. You remember that morning, Mom? You were out in the yard feeding the chickens, surprised to see me up already. Sit down, I said to you. I've got to tell you something. I took your arm and helped you find a seat on that large rock out back. Mom, I'm going to bring Mary home to be my wife. Can you help make a place for her things? You were silent a long time. You do know what they're saying, don't you, Joseph? You said at last, your eyes glistening. If your father were still alive, he'd have some words to say, I tell you. Going about like that before you're married. Disgracing the family and all. You and Mary ought to be ashamed of yourselves. There was no way I could explain it to you, Mom, so I didn't even try. Unless an angel had appeared to you, you would have laughed my explanation to scorn. It's the right thing to do. Mom, I need you. You took my arm and got to your feet, and the fire was gone from your eyes. You can count on me, Joseph. And you meant it. I never heard another word. Mom, no bride could have wished for a better mother-in-law than you. After I left you, I went down the road to Mary's house and knocked. Her mother glared at me when she answered the door. Loudly, harshly, she called into the room, "It's Joseph!" Almost spitting out my name as she said it. My little Mary came to the door, cringing as if she expected me to give her the back of my hand, I suppose. Her eyes were red and puffy. I can just imagine what her parents had said to her. We took a few steps away from the house. Pack your things, Mary. I'm taking you home to be my wife. Joseph! She hugged me. Mom, I never realized she was so strong. I told her what I'd been planning. We'll go to Rabbi Ben Ezra's house this week and have him perform the ceremony. Now, I know it was awful sudden, Mom, but I figured the sooner we got married, the better it would be for her and for me and for the baby. Mary, even if our friends won't be there, at least you and I can pledge our love before God. I think my mother will come, and maybe your friend Rebecca, if her dad will let her. What about your parents? I could feel her tiny body shuddering as she cried silently. Mary, no matter what anyone says, I'm proud you're going to be my wife. I'm going to take good care of you. I promised God that. I had a dream last night, Mary. I saw an angel. I know. The anguish which had gripped her face vanished. She was radiant. As we turned away from the house and began to walk up the hill together, just then, her mother came rushing out into the yard. "Wait!" she called. She must have been listening from behind the door. There were tears running down her cheeks. "I'll get your father," she cried, almost giddy with excitement. "Wee!" she yelled as she gathered up her skirts. "Wee!" she shouted as she began to run to find her husband. "We are going to have a wedding!" Ah, that's how it was, Mom. Thanks for being there for us. I'll write again soon. Love, your son, Joseph. Thank you. Thank you, Don. Wow. Okay, so here's my question for you. A little bit of work required. So just in groups of 2 or 3, and I'm only giving you like 3 minutes. What is it that you hear from these 2 stories, the Cana crisis and Joseph's letter home, being put side by side? What is it that speaks to you, that is communicated to you, that jumps off the page to you when you consider these 2 stories together? Compare and contrast. Groups of 2 or 3, 3 minutes, go. Put close together. I won't call on anyone specific, but when I went back to my table just to grab my watch, Randy right away said,
"It's not my fault."
"It's not my fault." Both men can claim that it wasn't their fault. Okay.
This Randy's got a good answer for it.
Okay. Yes.
What's that? What did you say?
I said this Randy's got a good answer for it.
Oh, I think both narratives deal with shame and honor. I think that's very much a prominent theme, and it's a New Testament theme. Sometimes we are not cognizant of how much that was part of things, but I think by fleshing in the narratives a little bit, it gave me at least a sense of how this may have affected the families surrounding Mary and Joseph, and I really appreciated that thought, and that captivated my imagination.
Great. Thanks, Randy. Thank you. Anybody else like to share?
We couldn't help but sing the song that they introduced us to. My true love gave me an unplanned pregnancy.
Unplanned pregnancy.
You started something, Gina.
I know.
After what Randy said, it did touch, at least my thought is, in both cases, not all miracles are good at first. And Randy challenged me on the thought, but the reality is both of them did have to kind of exist with the shame that came with the fact that the first miracle had to be done because something wasn't, quote unquote, done rightly. And then the shame that Joseph bore. The miracle, the best miracle of all time, resulted in a lifetime of shame for him, of what people would say, of which he had no control.
That's right. That's right.
Maybe the notion of a mystery in both cases, it kind of challenges our sense of incredulity. Like what are we capable of believing here? And it just looks as though we shouldn't be able to believe any of this, and yet both stories are true.
That's right.
In parallel, in tandem together, it makes the ordinariness of the miracle. A woman had a baby, and a wedding had wine. That most people had no idea the miracle behind it. And the fact that you told it from the lesser character's viewpoint kind of highlights some of that. Like, not everybody knew the story behind the story. It wasn't miraculous to everybody there.
Right.
Both included wine.
We also said that neither could stand on the rock and shout it out. For the wine, he could shout out and say, "Hi, this was buckets of water 5 minutes ago." When the master had just said, "This is the best wine ever." He had to keep that. And Joseph could never really tell people. He wouldn't be believed, so they kept it.
I like the preserving of dignity. right? For the banquet host and for Mary, on preserving dignity.
Yes.
That's good.
The thought I had was, for both of those men, again, obviously there's some artistic license taken there, and we don't really know the thoughts, but, in effect, they woke up in the morning having no idea how the day would end. And that is true for us. We wake up in the morning and have no idea the things the Lord is going to do in us, through us, things that happen around us. And so, I cling to, that His mercies are new every morning. And in effect, we end up in a story of some sort for that day. And then, we have some decisions that we have to make as to how we're going to tell that story, and what are the miracles, what are the revelationary encounters that we're going to highlight, or how much of it, or is it going to be us complaining or whining or whatever the case is. And so we get some choice there. So, but thank you so much to Sylvia and the team for inviting me to share with you guys for our Christmas lunch, and blessings on you as you impart to our family, our greater family in Victoria over the Advent season, that the stories would become fresh and exciting as you share. So thank you guys so much.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thanks.